I am Mrs. Wyrick for Homemaker 2.0, and 5 months late, we are going to talk about my natural Catholic childbirth experience. You coming too? This is going to be a group project, I see. So first, why a natural birth in the first place? I'm really big on the idea of redemptive suffering, which is, for those of you who don't know, what does it mean? Well, let me tell you. Redemptive suffering is the idea that you need to eat your eggs first. Redemptive suffering Don't climb on my feet. You can unite your sufferings to Christ's sufferings and his passion. And if you're in a state of grace, you can offer those sufferings up and merit graces for yourself and others. And so for me, knowing that natural childbirth is, for most of us, the most painful thing we're going to experience this side of hell. Redemptive suffering seems like a great way to start my kids out on the right foot spiritually. Why a Catholic natural birth? But primarily, I tried to have a natural childbirth with my firstborn, but we ended up inducing, and I didn't really have a plan for pain management. I was like, well, I'm just going to offer it up. And I thought that idea was going to be enough. And it wasn't. I remember, shaking and vomiting and getting the epidural, and that's about it. So I looked into having a Christian birth, and really the only thing that came up was here's a feel-good Christian playlist to play in the background while you're going through the most painful thing of your life, and that wasn't particularly helpful. I looked up how to have a Catholic birth, and there's almost nothing. Look it up. There's almost nothing, which is really discouraging for me. Catholic women have been around for 2,000 years, and we haven't figured out how to make this a Christian experience yet. I was disappointed. So the scary thing about it all was that I was like, okay, so to my knowledge, this actually hasn't been done before. And so the things I was coming up with, I'm like, this is how we're going to get through it. Knowing that that this was not something that a lot of women were doing, and that I didn't really have a whole lot of resources to pull from, the hope was that God would look with favor on my effort to give me the grace to get through it. And he did. So let me just share with you how we had a Catholic birth experience and what we did, and hopefully this is helpful to any of you other Catholic mamas out there who don't want an epidural and who don't want to go the whole paganish hypnobirthing route, because I looked into that and I was like, not a fan. So essentially what we did is we looked at the things that people were doing that worked, and we tried to just kind of baptize what other people were doing. So I looked into hypnobirthing and saw that it was a lot of meditation. Essentially, you're getting your mind on something other than the pain, because natural childbirth is no joke. It hurts. So if meditation was the answer, what better resource do we have than the rosary? I had a rosary made. I made a rosary that had all 15 mysteries on it. So it was very long and heavy and beautiful. If you guys would like to see it, let me know and I will share it sometime. So I had this rosary made and ready to go, and I was practicing with it as of about the beginning of my 3rd trimester. I was trying to make sure that I got that rosary in every day because, I mean, of course, if you're Catholic, you know that we should be doing that anyway, but I was struggling on that front. So I was trying to get that in. Okay, so I was trying to get that in. I anticipated that that meditating on the mysteries of the rosary was going to be a little bit difficult whenever I was in that much pain. So I went ahead and I wrote out some reflections just kind of as they came to me through the course of my pregnancy on the different mysteries of the rosary and how I could relate to that particular mystery in the course of childbirth. If you guys want to see any of those reflections, let me know in the comments below, and I would be happy to share some of those with you. But do what works for you. Come up with your own reflection. We knew that meditation had worked for people. I talked to a doula who we almost used and then didn't. And she said that of the moms that she's helped, that the ones you need to eat your eggs. And she says she's seen the most success in moms that have used hypnobirthing, so I knew meditation was the way to go. But another thing that I have seen, I haven't seen it super frequently, but if you look around on the internet, you can find it, and it's pretty cool to watch, is you need to eat your eggs first. Is moms singing through their contractions. I was super intrigued by this. Because everybody tells you, oh, focus on your breathing, focus on your breathing. And obviously breathing is important because you need that oxygen when you're in labor. But I'm the kind of person that, like, if I focus on my breathing too much, like, I'm going to hyperventilate. I didn't find the breathing exercises helpful. So I saw that people were singing through their contractions with some amount of success. If you have any experience with singing at all, you know that it requires a certain amount of air to get those notes to come out. So that was something that I was interested in. And so we picked out some hymns that we liked that kind of went along with the rosary reflections that we had, and we're gonna incorporate these somehow. If you're gonna go this route, I encourage you to pick hymns that mean something to you and that are gonna help you in the course of your meditation. Honestly, the hymns that we ended up using were not these super traditional hymns that I would like to see at Mass all the time, but they were particularly helpful for this. So again, use what works for you. If you're interested in what hymns we used, again, let me know in the comments below, and I'll hook you up. You to focus on your breathing, and obviously breathing is important because you need that oxygen when you're in labor, but I'm the kind of person that, like, if I focus on my breathing too much, like, I'm gonna get wrapped up in it. I'm gonna hyperventilate. I didn't find the breathing exercises helpful, so I saw that people were singing through their contractions with some amount of success. Hey. Don't eat the phone. If you have any experience with singing at all, you know that it requires a certain amount of air to get those notes to come out. You say hi? Hi. Oh. So that was something that I was interested in, and so we picked out some hymns that we liked that kind of went along with the rosary reflections that we had, and we're gonna incorporate these somehow. If you're gonna go this route, I encourage you to pick hymns with meaningful. Bless you. Bless you. I encourage you to pick hymns that mean something to you and that are going to help you in the course of your meditation. Honestly, the hymns that we ended up using were not these super traditional hymns that I would like to see at Mass all the time, but they were particularly helpful for this. So, again, use what works for you. If you're... It's okay. It's okay. If you're interested in what hymns we used, again, let me know in the comments below, and I'll hook you up. So in terms of what that looked like for us, how that actually played out, is I was having regular contractions for hours. They hurt a little bit, but they were very manageable. But they were consistent for several hours. Go take a bite of eggs. Oh. What? You need some help? Okay. Here, take a bite. Turn around. I got it right behind you. Ah. Okay. But we were going to deliver at a birth center, and I was pretty much told that you want to be in unbearable pain by the time you get there. But I was strep positive, so lucky for me, I had to get a couple of rounds of IV in before he was born. So they let me come a little bit earlier than they would have liked for me to, which was great because we had an hour commute to the birth center, and I was a little nervous about it. So I called the midwife, and I told her that they were getting a little bit more intense, but they were still very manageable. Should we come in? She's like, yeah, go ahead and come in. No rush, but just start making your way. So we stopped by Walmart because I wanted to pick up something for my oldest son before we got there, so that when he came to meet the new baby, that he had a little something from baby brother, because our little koala bear had just had his second birthday, and I had promised him a birthday present from baby brother. So I already had it ordered, and it was ready for pickup at Walmart. It was this kid's VTech camera. I knew everybody was going to be taking pictures of the baby. I didn't want him to feel left out because the pictures were all pretty much going to be of baby. So I thought maybe he'd like to stand on the other end of the camera. He liked the gesture, but he wasn't altogether too interested in it. He's 2.5 now, and he's just kind of starting to take an interest in that camera. But it was a pretty good investment. It didn't cost that much. So we got to Walmart, and their little pickup tower was down. It wasn't working, and the camera was in there, but we had already punched in our pickup number. And so they're like, okay, well, we're just waiting. And we're waiting, and we're waiting, and we're waiting. And I'm like in the early stages of active labor here. And we're just rocking back and forth in the middle of Walmart waiting for them to figure out our package. An older woman who worked there was like, when are you due? And I'm like, now. She's like, I thought so. Maybe we could try to hurry this along. We were there probably, I want to say close to 30 or 45 minutes trying to get this figured out. And they did eventually figure it out. And we perhaps foolishly stayed until they figured it out because it was already halfway through the process. I asked them, I said, can I just send my mom to pick this up tomorrow? I know she's not the designated pickup person, but they're like, oh. But the guy over the pickup, he says to me, he's like, I can see how that would be helpful for you. But I don't know if they're gonna let her do that since she's not the pickup person. So let's just try to hurry this up. So I think it was 1:15 till midnight by the time we left Walmart. And we headed up to the birth center. We got there around 1 in the morning. And left Walmart, the contractions were starting to get more intense. But I could still talk through them with some amount of difficulty. So the pain was still manageable. We headed up there and we decided that, okay, it was time to start the pain management now before it got too bad, so that we could kind of progress with it already in place.
I want this one too. I want this one too.
So what we did was we started praying the rosary between contractions. And in between, depending on how many reflections, different mysteries, I had a different number of reflections for, just based on what I could come up with. And so every couple of Hail Marys, we'd read another reflection to kind of refocus our attention on the mystery instead of... So we decided to go ahead with our rosary and our reflections and all of this while the pain was still manageable, so that as it progressed, we already had our pain management. We already had our coping mechanism in place. So between contractions, we were praying the rosary. Every few Hail Marys, I'd read out another reflection. Mr. Wright's just sitting there praying the rosary with me. And then whenever, when we hit a contraction, we'd get through that Hail Mary that we were on the best we could. Usually I could feel one coming on, and we just wouldn't even start the next Hail Mary. And we'd sing a hymn. Usually we'd get through like a verse and maybe a refrain of the hymn, and Mr. Wright would sing that along with me, which was very nice. And it got us through the contraction. I mean, it helped. It gave purpose to the breathing rather than just breathing for the sake of breathing, which was not particularly helpful to me. So that's what we did. And it was getting more and more intense as we got to the birth center. But that was just what we did the whole hour we got, the whole hour commute up there. That's what we were doing. And then we got there and they got us checked into a room. They said, I still think we're in early active labor, but we're early is what they said. But I needed the IV, so they checked us into our room. And at first I was a little self-conscious, honestly, about praying the rosary and singing Catholic hymns with the midwives in the room, because we had a whole group of midwives that we were seeing, and there was only one of them that I knew of that was Catholic, and she was not on duty the night that we were in labor. In fact, we saw lots of different midwives during our visits, and the one who helped deliver the baby was not one that I had ever met before, except I've talked to her like once on the phone. So we had a midwife there, and I guess she was a nurse, the other one. I don't even remember what exactly her position was. But I was a little self-conscious praying with them in the room. And so for a while, we just kind of dropped it. And I sat on a birthing ball, and I was just trying to breathe my way through the contractions, and Mr. Wright was applying counter pressure to my lower back where it was really hurting, and that was helping, but it was like not helping as much as praying the rosary was. And so the midwife and the other woman, I'm gonna call her a nurse, stepped out of the room and told Nathan, I told Mr. Wright that, like, I need to find a way to be comfortable doing this. I don't want to like weird them out, but like I need to do this. And so we did. We got we figured if we just started while she wasn't in the room, then we would just keep going whenever she came in the room, and they would just deal with it. And that's pretty much what happened. And so even like, I think they must have been able to hear from outside of the room, because those rooms are not soundproof. I think they must have heard us praying and singing from in there, because they were very quiet when they came back in the room. They almost like snuck back in. I almost didn't hear them coming in and out, but they were very helpful at applying counter pressure and giving my husband a break when he needed a break. But they didn't say anything about us praying or singing, except I think occasionally I remember the nurse commenting once, "What a great song to labor to." I believe we were singing at that point, "It Is Well With My Soul," which actually was really helpful during labor. So for a while, I was just on the birthing ball as we were doing the rosary and we were singing. And then kicked up a notch. And so we moved to the bed, and I think I was just on all fours at that point, and we did that for a few contractions, and it wasn't really working very well. So the nurse suggested that we roll me over onto my side, and there was like a peanut-shaped ball that we put in between my knees, and then they had better access. They had access to my back, so they were applying the counter pressure as we were doing the rosary, and we were doing the hymns, and we did that for a while. I don't even know how long we were doing it. I think we were doing that for like a good part of labor. And then things kicked up a notch, and it's like, okay, we need to try something else. So we moved to the shower. The birth center has a great big walk-in shower. It has it has the water coming down from overhead, and then it also has a handheld one, so it can come down on you, and you also have one that you can move around to apply warm water to your back or to your tummy or whatever, and that was very, very helpful. I wish we had continued the rosary while we were in there, but it was just a lot of stimulation. It was hard to focus on everything that was going on. I wish we had continued the rosary. We had made it through, I believe we made it through the joyful mysteries in the car, and then we had made it most of the way through the sorrowful mysteries just while we were laboring in the suite. So at that point, we got in the shower. I say we. Mr. Wright, there was a little chair in there that he just kind of like sat in there and kept me company, and I did most of the moving around in the shower by myself, just because I knew what I needed and I was able to do it, and so it was just easier for me to do it than to have to direct somebody else at that point. I was a little self-conscious about just getting naked with these people in the room that I didn't know, but I figured, you know what, we're gonna end up this way anyway, and I might as well just get used to it as fast as I can, get over the self-conscious part of it, and just focus on labor. And so that's what I did, and I just jumped in there and got to it, and it got harder and harder and harder. I think I will have to double check with Mr. Wright on this. What, baby? Okay, go ahead. The light's already on. I think... Yes, I'll stay here. I think we might have been singing while I was in the shower. Maybe? I'd have to check. I don't remember. I just remember that it was hard. So my lowest point during labor found me literally lying on the shower floor, like my face up against the floor. And I remember thinking, like, this is the worst. I was still doing it. I was moaning loudly, I think. But, so I was lying on the shower floor, moaning, I think, during contractions at this point. And it was just me and Mr. Wright in there for a while, and I don't even know how long I was like that. And finally the midwife kind of stuck her head in the shower room, and she's like, "Would you like to be checked? Why don't we check you?" I had not, my cervix had not been checked the entire time that I was there, and they told us in birthing classes that usually when you get to that point where you're like, I can't do this anymore, it's a good time to be checked, because a lot of the time it means transition. So I was hopeful. I was like, I kind of wanted to be checked because I really wanted to be at transition by that point, but I really didn't want to be told, you haven't progressed like at all. That's what I was scared of. But I was like, okay, let's just do it. So they said that I was fully dilated and my waters were bulging. So they wanted to get my last dose of the IV in, and then we were gonna go. So they went ahead and they set up the birthing tub, because that's the last trick in their bag for pain relief. So, and since I was kind of struggling, that's where they moved me to. So we got in. The walls on the birthing tub are really high. It's kind of hard to get in and out of that. It's way harder to get out of it than it is to get in it. FYI. Something that never, ever, ever occurred to me. So we got in the tub and we just kind of bought our time for like the 30 or so minutes that it took to get the medicine in there, and then we started pushing, and this was my first time pushing without an epidural, and like it was easier to feel what I was doing because I wasn't all numbed up, but oh man, the ring of fire is real. It's real. We picked the rosary back up when we got in the tub. Actually, I don't think we did pick the rosary back up, but we probably should have. It was hard. I remember saying, I don't think I can do this. No. I said, I don't think it's going to fit. Because it was hard. It was hard. We did get through it though. I was on my hands and knees in the tub for most of it, and then they wanted me to flip over on my back like as he was starting to crown so that it would be easier to put baby on my chest, which was a really hard maneuver. And pushing on your back in the tub, I don't recommend it. I thought it was a really bad position for that. If I could do it again, I think I would have tried to deliver in the bed, and there's a few reasons for that, but I'll get to that in a minute. But eventually we it was right when they flipped me over and they said, okay, you've got like 1 or 2 good pushes, and it's time to meet your boy. And it was in those last couple of pushes, I really, really felt the need to unite myself to our Blessed Mother as we were pushing, because Our Lady, I don't know why more people don't turn to her for natural childbirth, because she did natural childbirth with no medical interventions, and she also, you can't have a more Christ-centered birth than Our Lady did. Okay, she was thinking about our Lord the whole time. And so, I wanted to be thinking about our Lord as we were going through the most painful thing that my body has ever been through. And so, through the last few pushes, we sang, "O come all ye faithful." I think the nurses were actually singing too at this point. Like, I know I heard a woman singing, I don't know who it was, I assume it was the nurse behind me, but it was a really cool and powerful moment. And then my son was born. And it's really hard to get out of the tub after you've just had a baby, and it broke my heart that they had to take him away from me because I needed both hands to get out of the tub. And that was like the main reason why, like, I don't know if I would do a water birth again, just for that like, it was really, really hard to walk to the bed. I had to like drape myself over the nurse as she kind of like dragged me to the bed. It was awful. It was awful. But the actual birth itself, like, okay, pain management, did it hurt? Heck yeah. Hurt a lot. But to be honest, like, there was still some pain in delivering my firstborn, and I had an epidural and all the drugs I wanted. There was still pain there, and the recovery was not fun either. But when I was praying the rosary through the contractions, yeah, it hurt, but it gave such purpose to the suffering. It wasn't just like, this is something that I can go through or I can opt out of. It was, this is how I can merit graces for this child before he ever is born. And just keeping that in mind, those reflections really, really helped me to get through it, because the suffering meant something. It wasn't just like this arbitrary thing inflicted upon me. So would I do natural childbirth again? Absolutely. Would I do natural childbirth without the rosary? Would I do a natural childbirth that wasn't a Catholic childbirth? I'm gonna say no. Like, literally, the ability to get through the contractions, I attribute largely to grace. It wasn't like, oh, I am woman, I have this great inner strength. It was absolutely a grace thing. We were praying the rosary, and we had a team of prayer warriors that we let them know whenever we went into labor, and they were praying. And it was evident that there was grace involved. So for those of you out there who are considering a natural childbirth, I hope this was helpful to you. I think you could probably do this in a hospital just as easily as you could do it at a birthing center, depending on your hospital. We live in kind of a rural area, and I don't know that we would have... Actually, I do know, because we've delivered there before. They would not have let me move around as much, but I've heard that city hospitals will let you be more mobile. They're a little bit more flexible. But yeah, I think you could do a Catholic natural childbirth in a hospital with minimal difficulty, in terms of like just the staff not wanting to put up with you. But our birthing center was covered by insurance, so it was actually cheaper for us to deliver at the birthing center than it would have been to go a more traditional route. So definitely look into that. We delivered at Baby and Company on West End in Nashville. So I highly recommend them if you can swing it. If they don't cover your insurance and you have to go to a hospital, don't be discouraged, because I have talked to people who even went to the same birthing classes that we went to, which were not very helpful, by the way, at Baby and Company, and they still ended up delivering in a hospital, and they were fine. But yeah, I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions or would like to hear more, if there's something that I didn't touch on, please let me know. But any Catholic mamas out there, I highly encourage you, even if you're gonna get an epidural or some form of pain relief, invoke Our Lady. She is the mother of mothers, and if anybody can get you through it, it's our Lord through Our Lady. God bless.